In the recently released first season of The Bad Batch, we got to see our boy Rex building a network of clone deserters, either to resist the Empire or to lay low for fear of it. Rex, however, wasn't the first character to have such an idea. There was a network of clone deserters that formed shortly after the end of the Clone Wars in Legends as well, led by a Mandalorian named Kal Skirata. In this video, we're going to tell you about the Refuge of Cuy'val, Mandalore's hidden clone community, and the man who founded it. This video is brought to you by the Ridge Wallet. Clone deserters need to be able to roam the galaxy in a light and secure way, and the Ridge Wallet absolutely fits the bill. Among many other features, some of my personal favorite parts of these wallets include the sleek and beautiful design, as well as RFID blocking technology that protects from the ever-increasing threat of digital pickpocketers in today's society. To secure your very own Ridge Wallet, make sure you check the description and click the link ridge.com/Geetsly for 10% off. Now, before we get too deep into things, we just want to clarify that this isn't a theory about the Bad Batch. Kal Skirata and Cuy'val do not exist in canon, and what Rex is planning is clearly its own thing. Furthermore, for all we enjoy his work, Dave Filoni has never really been one for continuity with the expanded universe, and Star Wars The Clone Wars ran roughshod over the lore concerning Kal Skirata and Mandalore long before that stuff was even reclassified as legends. There is, however, a degree of similarity between Rex's network and the Cuy'val community, so we felt it was worth a mention. Kal Skirata was one of dozens of Mandalorians recruited by Jango Fett to train clone commandos 32 years before the Battle of Yavin. Alongside 99 others, some Mandalorian and some not, Skirata became one of the Cuy'val and moved to Kamino, where he became responsible for a group of 100 young clone commandos. He bonded with many of his clones, and though he was as harsh in his methods as most other trainers, he nonetheless cared for them and saw them as children. Many clone commandos likely saw Skirata as a father figure, referring to him as Kal Buir, or Papa Kal. In his time on Kamino, Skirata also adopted the Null-class ARC troopers after the Kaminoans deemed them a failed experiment and ordered their euthanization. Against the Kaminoans' guidance, Skirata trained the Nulls on his own, shaping them into some of the most capable soldiers in the Grand Army of the Republic, albeit with anger issues. Like with his commando trainees, Skirata adopted a paternal attitude toward the Nulls, and they in turn began seeing him as a father, even going so far as to take the surname Skirata. It's worth noting that, while Skirata was absolutely based in how he cared for his men, he was still deeply jaded and bitter, which rubbed off on many of his clone sons. He didn't hesitate to rant about his views on the galaxy to his clone charges, a rather warped perspective in which the Jedi were just as bad as the Sith, and Mandalorian culture was objectively superior. To most fans, the flaws in this are self-apparent, but the young clones Skirata ranted to didn't have the perspective to see that, and so many bought into it wholeheartedly. This played a fairly important role in the later formation of the Cuy'val community, so keep it in the back of your mind for now. With the outbreak of the Clone Wars, Skirata's boys were sent off to the front lines, and the man himself was finally free to return to his former life. He chose not to, however, instead joining the Grand Army of the Republic to serve alongside the Null Arcs, who were essentially rudderless without his guidance. Skirata and the Nulls performed Black Ops missions for the Republic, doing everything from tracking General Grievous to battling separatist cells on Coruscant. Even though Skirata was tied up with his work for the Republic, he was still able to purchase a plot of land on Mandalore, which he intended to settle. Rav Bralor, a fellow member of the Cuy'val and a close friend of Skirata's, developed the land in his absence, building a settlement that came to be called Cuy'val with the help of a team of labor droids. The main structures of the settlement were complete by the end of 21 BBY, and by the time the Clone Wars were over, Cuy'val was pretty much complete. During 21 BBY, while the settlement was still under construction, Kal Skirata and the Nulls adopted it as their base of operations. It was from there that they carried out missions that weren't sanctioned by the Republic, such as networking with clone deserters, siphoning billions of credits from the Argyle banks, and kidnapping Kaminoan scientist Ko Sai. Though Skirata and his boys still formally worked for the Republic, they had their own agenda. After the war was over, they planned to settle down and live normal lives, and they weren't about to let the clones' rapid aging get in the way of that. To that end, they imprisoned Cuy'val and Kira Morot and forced her to work on a cure for clone aging, though the Kaminoan geneticist ended up killing herself to spite the Skiratas before the job was done. Even during the Clone Wars, Skirata began assembling a little clan of his own at Kira Morot. When clone commandos that Skirata had trained were severely injured in combat, he arranged for them to be sent to Mandalore, where they would drop off the grid and join Clan Skirata. Kira Morot was also where Jedi Padawan Etain Tar-Mukan laid low while pregnant with the child of Clone Commando Darman. After the child was born, Skirata pressured Tar-Mukan to allow him to take the boy and raise him as a Mandalorian, and the Padawan ultimately relented. This was rather ironic, as Kal Skirata regularly railed against the Jedi for the oh-so-evil practice of adopting Force-sensitive children into their order. At the end of the Clone Wars, Skirata and the Nulls opted not to serve the new Galactic Empire. They deserted the army and retired at Kira Morot, where they were soon joined by many other clone deserters. 2 clone commandos from Omega Squad, the commandos of Yayak Squad, the Arc Commander Maze, and the clone commander Levet all joined Clan Skirata following the rise of the Empire. The separatist scientist Ovalot Kale Uthan was also brought to Kira Morot, tasked with replacing Cuy'val in the quest to find a cure for clone aging. A few Jedi even joined the group, Arligan Zay, Kinaha, and the Padawan Scout, who we've done a full video about if you're interested. Kira Morot was essentially intended to be a self-sufficient commune for Kal Skirata's little band of misfits. While the clone deserter network Rex was building in canon was likely meant to resist the Empire, the Kira Morot community instead chose to lay low, content to ignore the Empire so long as it ignored them. Indeed, the community mostly ignored the rest of Mandalorian society as well, as it had its own farms, a hangar for starships, a fully stocked armory, and even a medical research lab, which allowed Clan Skirata to both seek a cure for clone aging and also avoid expensive Mandalorian medical bills. There's another aspect of the Kiramot community that often gets glossed over though. Pretty much everyone that lived there was a convert to Kal Skirata's personal philosophy, which we talked about earlier. Indeed, while the community was pretty laissez-faire, it was clear that Kal himself was the undisputed leader of Clan Skirata, a father figure to most of the clones there and a guardian to the others. We're not going to go pointing fingers and call the Kira Morot community a cult, but it was definitely very cult-ish. This is another point of irony, considering Skirata's hatred for the culty ways of the Jedi. It's unknown what, if anything, the Kira Morot community did during the rise of the Empire, but we do know that it survived the Galactic Civil War and many other conflicts that followed. It was still kicking by 40 ABY, a full 60 years after the end of the Clone Wars, though by that point, Kal Skirata was long dead. Even then though, Kira Morot was known mostly as a home for outcasts and so-called wild men, and there was still a whole lot of Fett blood among the inhabitants. While we don't know much of the Kira Morot community's activities after the Clone Wars, we do know that they were eventually successful in finding a way to give clones normal lifespans, though they apparently didn't share it with clones beyond Mandalore. So, that's our look at Kal Skirata and the clone deserters of Kira Morot. But what do you think? Have you read the Republic Commando novels this lore comes from? Let us know all that and more in the comment section below. And as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.